Alright, it's 20 August 2014. I'm going to cover a trade that I did today in SFLY, which is SFLY. Just going to go over it real quick. What was interesting about this is, again, it's purely an algorithmic trade that I set up prior to the open, and then it just sort of ran its course. And yeah, without further ado, this is the daily chart of SFLY, just to show you my what I was thinking here. Again, I kind of obviously thought the market was somewhat overdone over the last week or so, that up move, but this was an interesting setup. I was watching. It was on my watch list yesterday. Had a volatility set up in here. You can look back. Had a nice gap up here. Earnings kind of holding this 200-day moving average. Consolidated now for about a month and a half, basically. And it seemed like every time I got to this 50, it was pretty good resistance. But now it was kind of just slowly hitting up to that 50 level. And if you see the close yesterday, it's closed right beneath it. So I figured it was worth a shot today, even though with the market being somewhat overbought. Just to again, my algorithm is programmed to really cut the losses pretty fast if it's not working out. So I figured, all right, I was probably risking 20 to 30 cents on this stock, so give or take. This stock isn't really the thickest stock, especially on the open, so I did cut my position size down a little bit just because of that. But basically I turned the system on the intraday, and the way I did that here is I basically load up I do tick chart, so and then I just basically, here's my strategy right here, right? Buy, stop intraday, and these are all the variables. I mean, it's a lot of variables. Most of them are kind of fixed. I've sort of tweaked them and through experience got the values where I like them. The key here is setting the buy level, number of shares, and then just I also have a leveraging feature. So it's basically the leveraging feature would leverage the initial shares, but it will also, on that portion, have a much tighter risk control. I also have a scalping feature right here. So it's almost the same thing as a leverage, except it will take a profit quicker. So anyway, without further ado, this is the intraday chart here, and so these lines here represent the opening this morning, and you can tell it is a little wide in the morning. I mean, you have some pretty wide bid and offer in the morning. I think at one point it was basically 32 bid, 77 offer on a $49 stock, which is quite wide, especially since my algorithm's buying, basically stops with the stop market could get pretty ugly if you buy it and the bid below is a good portion away, especially if you're wrong. But anyway, I wasn't really watching it. I was basically looking at Apple and Google this morning, and some other stocks, and Tesla. So I wasn't following really this at all. In fact, at one point I was going to turn the system off because I was like, you know what, Fed minutes, do I really want to be, especially when this thing was down here at 49. I was like, you know what, this thing looks like it's coming off. It's, I just don't want to. There's no reason to keep the system on. But I figured, you know what, if it leaks lower, I'll never buy it. So why turn the system off? So luckily I did that because, again, I wasn't watching this when this happened. So I'm just going through here, sort of how it developed. You could see all of a sudden it got relatively strong versus the market. Volume started to sneak up in here. This is basically a volume ratio that's starting to come up in here. Basically had a buy level at 50. I actually got filled at around 50.5 because it was obviously a pretty fast market. So this basically broke the 50 level at 10:18:54, right? So this, it looks like, you know, when you think about it, it basically started at 10:18:54. So this is all the same. This all happened in the same second. And if we go here, we'll continue. Look at that incredible move, right? So 10:18:54, 10:18:54. You know, here we go. It's 1 second later, and we're already at 51.5. You know, is this kind of a move to be buying is just not humanly possible. I'm not a keyboard cowboy anyway, so there's no way in hell I'd be, you know, this move would have been up and done with before I can even type in the order. Just something I'm going to show in comparison is the this on a 1 minute chart, right? So this move. So here we go. So this is, you know, sort of the same thing, and boom, there you go, right? I mean, look at that. Went peaked up to almost 55, and within the next minute it's down at 51 and change. If I had the algorithm on set to this minute chart, yeah, I just wouldn't be quick enough to have exited, you know, in here, you know. So I mean, even if you break this down to a 30-second chart, which you're able to do here, it still it looks pretty much the same way. There you go. So look at that. It's just a spike up and basically comes right back in. And again, that's one of the reasons why I do everything, have my algorithms on a tick chart for this purpose. And you could tell, like, you know, usually a day in SFLY is you know, here this is the open, the prior day's open, and here it is, you know, so a 61 tick bar is, I mean, in a way, it's almost like a 10-minute chart, you know. So in this case, it's basically a 1 second chart, and even less, because here we go, the move starts at 10:18:54. It's peaked out at 54.78 at exactly 10:19. So it's a 6-second run right there, and then it trades a few seconds up in there. This is where the scalp kicks in. The scalp feature basically will sell once it reaches a certain percentage of the daily range. It will start to do a trailing stop, basically at the low. Each bar is low, so you could tell that no low was taken out, so it basically allowed it to run up. Sold some right off that high. Then I also have a Fibonacci 2.618 that calcs. Once the trade is taken out, it will calculate a Fibonacci level, basically between the high and the low of the daily. So if we go in here, we know the level is 50, and it'll take basically like what was that? You know, the high is 49.85, and it'll take this low, the subsequent low, if in this case, yeah, 48 and change, multiply by 2.618, and then it'll come up with a target, Fibonacci 2.618 target, which obviously this move triggers, and when that happens, the algorithm will tighten the stop on half the amount of shares. It'll really tighten it up, basically, you know, when the target is reached. So that will exit here roughly 54.19. Got out of the other a good portion, and then it still had half of that. So now it got out down here at 52.35. The rest of it on a on a retrace, right? So this retrace rule is a protection of, you know, you have a monster move, and again, this is something I've seen far too often. You get a good move, and then the stock retraces almost back to the breakout level. And if I don't have a retrace rule in there, I would basically run the position up, run it down. It's happened to me more than once, and it's pretty frustrating. So I added this retrace. rule in here, and gets me out of the rest, which was actually quite a prescient rule in this case, because this thing went all the way back to 50, just above 50. Just kept leaking lower, leaking lower, and that was the low right in here, just over 50. So probably not a bad spot to buy some back in here on the bid. I actually bought it back at 50 and a half and then sold it when it broke back below 51 later in the day. Yeah, I mean, I held it in here, held it, and then in the afternoon it kind of failed to, couldn't take out 52, and then it just started making lower lows, and I eventually just said, you know what, I just want out of this thing. Sold it below 51 and closed at about 50 and a half. So anyway, the power of the algorithm, right? It's pretty awesome, because the first exit here is at 10:19:09. So basically the trade was less than 15 seconds, from here to here, and then that was maybe just under 20 seconds to there, and then about 30 seconds to there. So hey, if I could do that every day, I can quit my day job. All right, thanks a lot.